welcome to the Confidence Igniter podcast, and I am your host. My name is Tamiko Green. Whether this is your first time or you're a returning viewer, I hope that you will subscribe and also click the like button. Well, I am so excited about tonight's show. As always, I always say I am so excited about the show, but our show tonight is really, really, really good. But before I give you the title, let me remind you of the Confidence Igniter conference that is coming up on May 10th. Tickets are on sale on Eventbrite, so I really hope to see you in this space. And with that being said, I'm sure you want to know what tonight's topic is, and it is titled From Basic to Brilliant. From Basic to Brilliant. Now, I got to use something to describe or to help us to understand what I'm talking about when I say from basic to brilliant. So, what is basic though? Now, let's look at it from basic thinking. See, basic thinking to me is when you look at something and see it the way it is versus the way it can be. Let me give you an example. So, when you look at a challenge, and you see only opposition, but you don't see an opportunity. Basic thinking. Brilliant thinking sees the obstacle as an opportunity to make a difference, to rise higher, to change. So, what can we use that that goes from basic to brilliance? So, I selected a caterpillar. Yes, a caterpillar. Now, I know when a lot of people think about a caterpillar, they like a caterpillar. Now, wait a minute. Now, there are some people out there that think about a caterpillar and say, brilliant. But for the most of us, a caterpillar, you'd be like, get that worm away from me. It's a worm, it's a hairy worm at that. So really, I'm not talking to those that see that caterpillar as, ooh, that is just it. That is just brilliant. Or more so the one that is like, oh, just get it away from me. Just move it, move it. Yeah, that person. Because when you think of a caterpillar, really, you see this worm. And I know some people may say, oh, I can have that as a pet. Now, we go and we have many pets. Some people have a pet rabbit, pet dog, a pet cat. I even heard of some people probably got some pet pigs. But have you ever seen a person that actually had a pet caterpillar? I don't think so. Maybe. But I find caterpillars to be really unique. And no, I don't have one as a pet either. But they are really unique to me because they go from basic to brilliant. What do I mean by that? When you look at a caterpillar, you see him crawling on the ground, right? But at some point, it goes from crawling to flying. Why? Because it transforms into a butterfly. So basic would be the crawl. It's crawling on the ground. Basic. And a lot of times we find ourselves just having basic thinking, not thinking that, okay, you know what, if I'm challenged, I can rise above. If there's a closed door, well, you know what, I create an opening. Because life doesn't always present openings to you. Sometimes you have to be bold enough and say, you know what, if they don't invite me to the table, I'll pull up my own chair and sit here anyway. See, sometimes we have to make the decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to accept anything. I'm only going to accept what I want to accept. I'm only going to allow myself to go higher in life and not accept when someone says, I can't do something, or I cannot reach a certain goal, or whatever it is that you want that people push against you and say that it's impossible. Because what's impossible for one person is not impossible for all. We all don't think alike. So when someone tell you what you cannot do and you accept it, basic thinking. But then as the caterpillar, yeah, the crawl is basic for him, but the cocoon represents a transformation. It's a period where it gets to the point that it's transforming into something different. And in our lives, we have to get to the point where we transform into something different. Meaning that when you find yourself in a situation, that instead of just accepting that situation the way it is, when it's something that you really don't want, you have to look at it from a different perspective. Even though people may tell you what you cannot do, but I've learned in life that I can't stop people from thinking, feeling, whatever, how they choose to, right? But what I can do is determine how I feel, right? I can make the decision to believe what I choose to believe. I don't have to believe what someone tell me. I can examine it, but if it's not in agreement with who I am and where I want to go in life, I can reject it. They can say what they want to. I get to believe what I choose to. I'm going to say that again. People get to say what they want to, and you, like myself, get to believe what I choose to. In other words, it's a choice. So when I look at the caterpillar, it starts on the ground and then it goes into a cocoon. And even in that cocoon, I'm sure there is pressure, because transformation is not easy. There will be pressure applied. I mean, if I go beyond the caterpillar and I think about a lump of coal, and that coal, when it has a lot of heat, the pressure that it goes under in order to become that diamond. My question to you tonight, are you willing to go through the pressure? Are you willing to endure the pressure in order to be transformed into that you desire? See, I always say, for even to myself, you're going to have to go through some things to get to where you want to be. I tell myself that. What are you telling yourself? Because, see, in the process of growth is pressure. When I look at just doing this podcast, right? It's a lot that goes that I have to do is preparation. You have to prep for it. You got to put it in your schedule. And then you have to be willing to show up. You got to be willing to say, you know what, today, even though someone may want me to do this or go out or go to the movies or go to dinner, but because I made a commitment that I'm going to do the podcast, I have to show up, right? So there's pressure, the pressure of making sure that I'm here, making sure that I bring something that will impact your life. So when I look at going through a transformation, pressure. When you look at a caterpillar and that whole metamorphosis going through, pressure. But it's okay, because what happens on the other end? See, if you only look at the pressure, you get stuck right there. If you only look at, you know what, I'm here and this is all I see. But basic thinking says, I only see what I see. The question is, can you see beyond what you can see? Because Brilliant thinking is just an engineering of taking the basic thinking and engineering it into something brilliant. So, yes, I may start at ground level, basic, but I recognize that in order to get to where I want to go, I got to keep moving and I got to keep thinking bigger and bigger and bigger and seeing myself, right? You got to see yourself where it is that you desire to be in life. You got to see the entire picture. Now, don't get me wrong. Someone may say, well, yeah, and everything you're saying takes resources. Okay, so before you put all of the resources in there, what do you see? Because if you only look at the resources, you might stop right there because you don't know where the resources are coming from. And because you don't allow that to stop you, because that would be basic, right? Basic thinking would say, well, because I don't have the resources, then I'm not going to do anything. Well, let's go back to that caterpillar. What happened if that caterpillar said, you know what, I'm just a worm? Okay. And I'm not even like the other worms because I'm pretty hairy. Okay. So I'm just a worm. And because I'm just a worm, I can't be anything else. But here's the great thing about the caterpillar, because in it is a butterfly. It was always a butterfly, but it had to go from basic to brilliant. And I ask you, are you willing to go from basic to brilliant? Because whatever it is that you desire to be, to do, is in you. It's already there. And if you're not living it, then one would have to examine their thinking. Why am I not there? What's stopping me? Because it's in having those moments, those conversations with yourself, of figuring out what is really holding me back. Because in most cases, it's our thinking. It's our thinking. Our thinking sometimes can be very basic. Our thinking we sometimes can think or look at life and make our decisions based on that. We look out into our environment. So whatever your environment, because if we all live in a different environment, we may live on the same earth, but a different environment on earth. So sometimes we look out into our environment and we look at what's going on in that environment. And we say to ourselves that, you know what, it won't happen. Or if I'm trying to, let's just say, start my own business. And because my environment may say it won't happen. So my basic thinking tells me because because of what society says, I sit down. Basic thinking. No, you stand up. But then you might be saying, well, how can you say that? Because you don't know where I live, where I come from, my environment. Well, let me tell you. At one point in my life, my environment was a high school dropout. And people said what I couldn't do, but I knew I was like the caterpillar, okay? I'm determined to fly higher. So back when I dropped out of high school, the norm was, well, if they dropped out of high school, they had a baby, well, they're never gonna get anywhere. But that's not true, because I couldn't stop the nevers that said those things from saying what they said. But it's what I believe, right? So imagine if the caterpillar believed that all it could ever be was a caterpillar. Imagine that if the caterpillar believed that it can never become this beautiful butterfly, right? Because a lot of times that's what we think. We can never become, we can never rise higher than where we are. Then there would not be any butterflies, right? Because if it didn't think it could, it probably wouldn't, because That's how a lot of times, sometimes we are. We think that we cannot. But the truth of the matter is, you can go as far as you believe you can because we live our life based upon our thoughts. And sometimes people say, well, we live our life based upon what society says. Well, then you living your life based upon somebody else's thoughts. That's even worse. Because the people that if you live in your life based upon someone else's thought and your life and you're not living your life to the fullest. So when I say that, because someone can say, well, when you listen to somebody that's motivating you, you living based upon them. No, in most cases, you're not basically living based upon them, but you're listening to them to say, to know that you can be, you can do, you can have the greatest life. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's easy, but hey, I don't think being in a cocoon is either. Now, I ain't never been in no cocoon, okay? But however, somebody said, well, you was in your mama's womb. Yeah, that's true. We all were before we came out. But however, what I'm saying is, I'm sure being in the cocoon is not an easy thing. Okay. But are you willing to endure? That becomes the question. Are you willing to endure? Are you willing to endure life challenges? Are you willing to endure all of those roadblocks and look at those roadblocks and say, you know what? It may be blocking the road, but it ain't blocking me. Oh, I know somebody like that. Ooh, I like that too. It may be blocking the road, but it's not blocking me. It's called a roadblock, not a Tamiko with a Y block. Okay? Yeah, a Tamiko with a Y, not a I, not a E, but a Y. So, are you going to let things stop you? That becomes the question. Because you don't have to. You can truly go from basic to brilliant, but it will take some transformation, just like the caterpillar. You gotta be willing to work with your thoughts. It's a daily practice. It's a daily practice. Because I can guarantee you can wake up in the morning and start thinking the greatest thoughts, and then all of a sudden something happened, and then those thoughts go haywire. But guess what? You can change it. You get to choose. You can kick those thoughts out of your head. Because guess what? They're not helping you. Those thoughts, those negative thoughts will bring you down, because it gets you into a story that keeps looping in your head, and then you have these conversations. And don't tell me you don't talk to yourself, because we all talk to ourselves. I'm telling you, we all, we all talk to ourselves. And I know you out there saying, I don't talk to myself. I'm sure you do. When you on an expressway and it's crowded and you trying to figure out how to get home quick, or wherever you going, you probably say, should I go this way or should I go that way? That's talking to yourself if you're the only person in the car. So with that being said, sometimes we do have to talk ourselves off that negative ledge, that those negative thoughts that we allow ourselves to have, because there's no way you can go from basic to brilliant, to being all that it is that you were created to be. Okay. Trust in the process each and every step of the way, because you have to trust the process. Because if not, if you don't trust the process and know that it'll happen for you, that you will get to that point in your life that you will be able to make it, you will be able to do what it is that you desire to do. If it's writing a book, trust the process. If it's taking on a new career, trust the process. Believe that it can. See yourself doing what it is that you desire to do. Because that's something we do every day. We either see ourselves not doing something, or we see ourselves doing something. A lot of times, some of us spend a lot of time in our head looking at all of the things that we can't do, or talking about things that don't even build us up. It burn us. But if we're like the caterpillar, we know what's in us. You got to know what's in you, because I can guarantee you there's greatness in you. I can guarantee you that there is untapped potential in you. And when you tap into it, you will see that your life will go from basic to brilliant. It's like an airplane in a hangar. Okay, when the airplane is in the hangar, it's just a basic plane in the hangar. But once all of the passengers get on board and that plane back up, watch Brilliance, okay? Because it's headed to the runway and it's going to be in the air. Something special in the air. And you are something special in the atmosphere. I'm going to say that again. A plane is something special in the air, but you something special in the atmosphere because there's brilliance in you. You can do things that you never imagined you can do. You came to earth to make an impact. The same way that the caterpillar came to earth, okay? It's here. It's here on earth. And every time someone see a beautiful butterfly, now you might look at that caterpillar and be like, oh, that little ugly worm. But when you look at that butterfly, you'll be like, "Ooh, did you see that butterfly? It is so beautiful. Oh my goodness." Yeah, that's just like you. See, when you allow yourself to go beyond basic thinking and see yourself being all that you can be, you'll go from, wow, look at where I came from. Look at me. I'm doing it. And you may not be talking to anyone other than yourself in the mirror. Because if you can't talk to yourself in the mirror, I don't know how you could talk to anybody else. Okay? Because you are you. And maybe that's what some of us need to do. Spend some time just talking to ourselves in the mirror saying how much you love you, how brilliant you are. All of the talent that you have the ability to make an impact in society. You have the ability to not only change your life, but by what you give to life can change someone else's, just like that butterfly. I'm sure there are many people that see butterflies and they just marvel at them. And they even forget that that butterfly started out as a caterpillar. See, people may look at you and see where you are, but they may not even think about where you started out at. And that's normally life because we do it all the time. We see movie stars, different celebrities that is really doing it. And we don't even think about where they came from. We don't think about that their basics and went to being brilliant. And sometimes I like to just say, the brilliance is already in you. But it's up to you. It's up to you to be willing to work on yourself. And I challenge you. I challenge you to figure out what it is that you really want to get out of life. And then when you figure out what it is that you really want to get out of life, then you got to figure out, what are you willing to give? What is the sacrifice? I'll give you an example. If you want to start a podcast, right? Figure out what it is that you want to talk about. Figure out who your audience is. And even if you can't figure out who the audience is, what impact do you want to make? And then don't just stop there, because then you got to put in the work. Get whatever equipment you need, a microphone and some software, or go straight out to YouTube and say to yourself, I'm going to do this. If it's a book that you want to write, that's fine. Tell yourself every day, I'm going to write a page or a half a page of that book that I know will impact somebody's life. See, I challenge you to do something different this week that you didn't do last week. I challenge you to take inventory on your thoughts. Look at yourself in the mirror and know that there's brilliance in you. However, whatever your life is, if you don't like it, know you got the power within you to change it. So the one thing, if you don't take away anything else today, think about this. I would say if you had the opportunity to live your life over, but every day is a new day to live your life over. So starting with today, what can you do that will add value to your own life? What can you do that will take you from basic to brilliant? Now, that's the action step. Think about that. Think about what could you do? Is it read more books? Is it spend some time with yourself? Is it just writing down what it is that you desire and the impact that you can make in your own life first and then someone else's? But what I can tell you, like the caterpillar, you can truly go from basic to brilliant. You have the power to transform your life just by transforming your thinking. But it will come from you. No one can do it for you. You can hear all of the motivation, inspiration speakers. They can't do it for you. That's like going to the gym and working out, or going to the gym and getting a trainer and watch the trainer work out while you sit and watch, hoping that the pounds will fall off of you. I can guarantee you they won't. They will fall off the trainer. The trainer will build muscle. You'll just be spending time and money watching. So it has to come from you, and you have to make the decision. If you want to go from basic to brilliant, because you was created to be brilliant. But we got to start somewhere, right? Basic. Well, this has been the show tonight. I hope you have enjoyed it. I definitely hope I see you on May 10th, though. But until next week, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you soon. Good night.